Before we get into this episode, I just want to let y'all know it's sponsored by Prize Picks. Shout out Prize Picks.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We're talking about the AFC East. We're talking about the NFC East. What do they need to do this offseason to improve? Free agency is coming up very fast, and the draft will be here before we know it. So we're trying to get through every single team before free agency opens and try and get a quick little blueprint on each of these teams. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I think that in this episode, we will see more teams with kind of bleak futures than in our previous episodes. I was going through this division and I'm like, with the Bears, it's so easy. And then with the South, like the AFC South, it's like, oh, Richardson, Stroud, just continue to build around your young star quarterbacks. In these two divisions, there's just not a ton of bona fide franchise quarterback talent. And then on the teams where there is that, the Bills and the Eagles, it's like, how can they even improve their ceiling? Because they haven't come away with anything yet.
Right.
And it's like, it's kind of tough. So this might be one of the more depressing episodes of this, I feel like.
And it's weird because, you look at the Bills and the Dolphins in the East, and you look at the Cowboys and Eagles in the other East, and it's like, well, those are the good teams, and then you look at the other side and it's just awful. So I don't know, it'll be an interesting episode. How are you doing, Matt?
Doing pretty good. Not a ton to report today. I'm a big fan of this jacket Theo's wearing. It looks pretty sharp. Is it new? I think it's new. It's got to be new.
I just don't wear it. It's not new. I mean, it's a winter jacket for outside, but it's cold in here, so I'm wearing my winter clothes indoors, which has been the benefit of the mild winter that we have all been having. Because I realized on the few days it's been really cold that this apartment is a bit airy and lets all that cold air in. So honestly, I've been pretty fortunate that the planet is warming at a dangerously high rate, and that winter didn't happen this year.
Speaking of crazy weather, Matt, did you get a tornado warning today?
No.
Or so a lot of the Midwest did. Columbus, Ohio did. Dayton, Ohio did. And like parts of southeastern Ohio did.
That's not a lot of the Midwest, my friend.
Well,
it's a lot of Ohio.
Ohio wasn't the only one, but Ohio did have a lot. And it just
making sure you know that
days,
the Midwest expands beyond Ohio sometimes.
Does it really? That's crazy. No. And in the last 10 days, we've had like the worst snowstorm of the season. We've had a near 70-degree day, and now we've had a tornado.
Don't do this to me, man. Don't pull out the Midwest crazy weather card on me, man. One of my
what do you mean don't pull out that card?
I don't know. It sounds pretty crazy to me, Matt. That's the thing about this Midwest weather.
That's the thing about this Midwest weather is that 1 minute it's not snowing and the next it is. How does that work? How does that happen? I don't
what
understand.
Are we supposed to talk about? It's the Midwest. That's all we have to talk about, Matt. You should know this.
But the weather's different than it was yesterday. How the hell could that possibly be?
It's not that it's just different. It's not like in most places the weather is very similar day after day. But
in most places,
it's snowing and then
that happens in most states in America. In fact, I looked this up. I believe most states in America, not most, but over 50% believe that their weather changes particularly quick. It's the same thing as like having the idea that like there's really bad drivers around here. There's bad drivers everywhere. The weather changes. I mean, I'll give you like Hawaii. Okay, Hawaii, it's going to be nice. Alaska is cold. Texas is warm. But outside of that, man, I don't
It's
know.
just Midwestern small talk. We have nothing to talk. We can't say, "Are you going to Usher's party?" You know, we can't say like you can in.
you going
New
to
England
But we
and-
don't say this stuff
and
in
the
Cincinnati.
South.
That's all I'm saying. We say cool stuff. We talk about dope things. I hate to say it.
What, like the Reds?
Right.
We talk about dope things.
We do.
Joe Burrow and how attractive he is, and how awesome he is, and how the Chiefs suck. That's
And how mad I am at
typical
Patrick Mahomes.
Cincinnati.
So true, man.
And how Caleb Downs is a Buckeye, and how he's going to be the best player on the
Right.
team. These are
Right.
things that when you-
Right. All much doper than like, dude, the weather.
Well, I think it's about high time we talk about some foosball. Don't you guys agree?
I guess. I agree. We should talk about some football,
You
maybe.
know what? I'm trying to be funny here. No one laughs
Didn't
at my
work.
jokes.
It was not a good one.
All right. Well, let's start with the AFC East. We're doing
What was the joke?
like are you from what is it? The Water Boy? His mom would always call football foosball.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just like
Yeah.
calling it the wrong name.
like,
I don't know the movie. I've never seen. Well, I do know of the movie, but I've never seen it.
This is
It didn't land. It didn't land.
It
But
didn't land.
anyway,
I hope the viewers got it. AFC East, we're talking about it. Got the Dolphins, the Jets, the Bills, and the Patriots. Which team do you guys want to start with?
I want to start with the Dolphins, honestly.
They were first on my
Figures.
list. So
Mr. Tua does not have an extension yet. He has
he's
one
still on
more
contract
year.
this year. He's still on contract
He has
this
one
year.
more year left on his deal. So, would you give him an extension? Jordan Love
on, man.
got a 1-year one to get off of his rookie deal.
Maybe a
Hurts
little. I
already
certainly would
has
not
one.
give him
Herbert
the.
already has one. Burrow already has one.
I certainly would not give him the 4-year, $220 million projection that I saw today. I mean, it's tough because if you lose him, you are probably not going to upgrade if you're the Dolphins right now. I think it's just not easy to do, right? There's not a lot of quarterback options, and you'd become another team that needs a quarterback. And you're a competitive team now. But at the same time, like, you cannot pay him like he is 1/4 of the reason that you are good or 1/5 of the reason that you are good. That type of money, that type of
Right.
cap hit, when he's not. When it's not him that's making you that good. He has his moments. He can run the offense effectively. But I think that sometimes guys get in that mode where if we pay him this much, it might sink us, but he's impossible to replace. I don't know if long-term Tua is in that boat. Another guy we're going to talk about today, Dak, I think he's closer to that than a guy like Tua is. So if it's up to me, like long-term extension, unless it's like one of these Daniel Jones very short-term and the guaranteed money deals where you can get off of it kind of quickly, I wouldn't. And it's still, with the concussion problems, right? Didn't rear its head last year,
Yeah.
but absolutely cannot just be something like, well, perfect. It's not a problem anymore. So I think you combine that stuff, and I can't give him an extension. Now, if it came down to Tua being like, I'm not going to play, I think I might be willing to trade him. But I don't know. I would prefer to keep him. I'd prefer to keep him and build out the rest of the offense a little bit and run it back and see what
Well-
we can do if the edge rushers are healthy.
Well, this is the main problem, right? So when everyone is healthy, this is a really good team. They had one of the most explosive offenses in the league. And from weeks 5 to 15, it was like that 10, 11 week stretch, they were one of the best defenses in football. But coming into this offseason, they are $28 million over the cap. They have 44 players rostered right now, and they expect to cut Xavier Howard. That'll save them about $18.5 million if they cut him after June 1st. Even still, you're sitting at $10 million over the cap. You probably want to bring Christian Wilkins back, and you still need to extend to it. Like, there's just, I don't know, man.
Dude, the thought that came to my mind when I was looking at all this was like, if they pay Tua, how different are they than the Saints? like building our own car.
They're a better team.
They are better, but like your ceiling is.
They got the better coach.
Yeah, but like, are you winning a Super Bowl with Tua? I guess they've got all these things, but like Blaiden said, they're pretty up against it in terms of cap space. And not only has Tua not won a playoff game, he's hardly won a big game over the course of his career. So if you're pouring money into that quarterback who doesn't solve problems late in the down, like what exactly are you paying for? I think they should be looking for a quarterback that doesn't need to have perfect play calling. And that's what the Dolphins currently need. Is they need Mike McDaniel to call the game of his life, and then they win games. But if there are problems on the field and Tua has to hold the ball, nothing is happening. And the best, Andy Reid is an amazing offensive mind, and he was before he got Patrick Mahomes. But the best thing Patrick Mahomes did for him was he could be hands off. And I feel like all the great quarterbacks, you can kind of be hands off and they can take over, whether it be they call their own plays or the play they call that gets a run, and then they make their own play late in the down. And like, I don't know if Tua can do any of that stuff. And then you're just basically trying to out scheme guys in the playoffs. And I just don't think it works there. I think Shanahan has run into this problem. I think really most teams that don't have an elite quarterback don't win the Super Bowl. So they've all kind of run into this problem outside of like a very small handful. So to me, I would be very interested in trading Tua away or just not signing him. They got ranked the #1 organization today. They're in Florida with no state income tax. Like, they're a very attractive location. They don't have any draft picks. They don't have any cap space. Like, the buck kind of stops here. I'd rather.
It's like if you trade Tua, so what are you doing then at quarterback?
I don't know, but I think that you could figure out a better option, honestly. Like, take it as it comes. Be light on your feet. I think so. Dude, Mike McDaniel, like, his job security should be pretty ironclad, no? And like,
sure.
If this is if everybody agrees, like, hey, if we get rid of Tua, we're giving ourselves time to find somebody, like, from the owner, the A+ #1 ranked owner.
You're saying that,
like, hey,
you're just like tanking on the year then? You're just like,
no, I'm not talking tanking. Like, obviously you try to find someone good. I'm just saying you don't pay Tua, and like, yeah, maybe the plan for quarterback isn't apparent right away, but there's no reason why as an organization you can't like come together and say like, hey, you've got some job security. It's not going to be a situation where you're fired in a year if you don't have the record, if you like, we make the decision to move on from Tua or trade him or do whatever. Like, it doesn't need to be that kind of sense of urgency. Like, the Texans had Davis Mills at quarterback. They went into an offseason without a lot of clear options. It was the bad quarterback year. Pickett was the only first rounder. And instead of reaching on someone mid, they took Derek Stingley, and then they found Stroud at some point later. And I think that's like a fine thing to bank on. And I think these teams bank on it more than we think, because for the past few years, all these media members have always been like, you need the quarter, like, more than anything, you need to take the quarter. You're screwed, you're cooked, you're fucked if you don't take a quarterback. And then the draft rolls around and like Levis falls to the second round and Fields falls out of the top 10 and like Willis falls to round 3. So I just don't think people are as desperate for like mid answers as it is made out to be. And I think if you're the Dolphins, what I would like to do is, first of all, potentially bring Tua back if he has no leverage, because he very well might. Like, I don't know if Tua could push the Dolphins around in any kind of negotiation. So you might be able to get him way less than that spot track number, because
I'd be interested in seeing what Brad Spielberger, I know he'll probably come out with his projections for contracts and stuff. I'd be interested to see what he has, because he was nails on those last year.
Yeah, I mean, he's the expert. I would also be very interested to hear. But I just think about it, like, what leverage does Tua even have to demand a big contract, I guess? If the Dolphins let him walk, would anybody else be like that interested in giving him a big contract? Like, he's got the concussions, like you mentioned, Matt. Like, it's pretty clear that he needs the Dolphins more than the Dolphins need him, probably. Like if you were to substitute a position with like a league average player on the Dolphins, like if you substituted Tua with like a league average quarterback, you get just Tua again. You know, like
can't do that. You can't do that.
You can't.
Though. You can't. It can't be done. Not this offseason. Maybe Kirk Cousins.
Well, you can't move on, but you can't cut him. But
well, it's like
you could just let his contract run out.
Okay, well, if I'm Tua and I've had these concussions, and you're like, well, we're just going to let your contract run out, I'm not playing. Why would I?
Yeah. Fine with me. Well, I seriously like. I think that there could be a better option than paying him. I like. Again,
I don't disagree entirely that if he's asking for a massive deal, like I agree, like I would try to look to trade him. But I think you also got to recognize that it's not as easy as just letting him walk and letting whatever happens. Next year is supposed to be the bad quarterback draft class. Next year is not looking.
But you never know
good.
what could crop up. You know, like it could be a situation where I don't know. I just think that they are in a spot in Miami where things could happen pretty quickly, and I think that. Honestly, the prospect of losing Tua and facing the unknown at quarterback might be an easier problem to solve than like building a Super Bowl roster around someone who's like not top 10. I just think that might be an easier problem to solve. You could trade for a guy who becomes disgruntled. Like you could be smart in the later rounds. I don't know. I don't know. And reset the contract market. I would not be interested in paying Tua that kind of money at all. And I know it's not easy to just find a new guy like that, but I also don't think it's easy to win a Super Bowl with Tua making $55 million a year. I think that is just as hard, if not harder.
I wouldn't give him anything close to that, but I think there's some in between.
But that's the projected number, you know, like it might come down to that. So at the Spot Track projected number, I would say like I'm down to trade him. I'm down to just not re-sign him if no one wants him for that price. Like it would be kind of a disaster.
So here's the question, right? Tua wants, let's say they try and get that Spot Track $220 million number. Dolphins decide they want to shop him around, try and trade him. No one wants him, right? No one's willing to make a trade for him. Then what do you do?
Say no one wants you, dude. So you have to sign for way less money.
But I'm probably more on board with either something trying to do that shorter term while you wait for maybe the quarterback market or your position to go get a quarterback to lighten up. The other problem is that your roster is very win now coded. Like it's very positioned to be win now. And to just punt on like the next year and then hopefully not punt on the year after is really tough to do. There's probably an in-between where I'm willing to pay to a decent amount with a limited enough guarantee. Whether or not they find that, I don't know. I agree with you. If it's $220 million or a bunch guaranteed, I'm just not doing that. If it's, something a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more towards like a Daniel Jones type thing, especially with the short guarantees, I might be down rather than just rolling the dice on something else coming up. Because while I agree that, should be, a lot of job security there, you can't, nobody is job secure after 2 bad years. Nobody.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that a soft rebuild could be the move for them. I really do. I think they're in such a better position than most teams who try to rebuild because they do have success and they do have some star players and they do have the head coach and they are in Miami. So it's like if they were to rebuild now when they don't have to, they would be in a better spot to go through a rebuild than a team that is like kind of forced to rebuild because they suck, like Washington and New England or something like that. So I think if they pressed the reset button and traded back in the first round, got more picks, didn't commit to a mid quarterback and were more light on their feet, they could piece something together and I don't want to say turn it around pretty quickly because it is no guarantee that you get the quarterback, but I do think they could contend with just a couple key pieces being McDaniel and just being the franchise that they are. Honestly, like I really think Miami is like an underrated place a real dynasty could start. Like they've got all the ingredients that would make it a very, very, very attractive place to go play if you had the quarterback. And I don't know. I just don't know if Tua is that guy. I haven't seen him win any big games. I haven't seen him do anything in the playoffs. I've seen him be a really limited athlete. The Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, not because they have the genius head coach, but because they solve problems after the ball is snapped. And Tua is one of the worst at doing that. And I just don't know if you win a Super Bowl with someone who's one of the worst guys at solving problems post snap and making things happen when things break down. So yeah,
I mean, I don't think Matt and I are disagreeing with,
No,
your opinion on Tua at all. Yeah, it's just Matt's right. Punting on a year where your team really is quite good, and it's just like if you could just fill.
It's like, what are they looking at? They just were in a season where their offense was historically good, like you said, defense. That Blaiden, their defense did figure it out, like down the stretch, and they still.
Well, then they got hurt. They lost all their edge rushers.
Yeah, they lost their edge rushers. Great. The team depends on their edge rushers, not their quarter. Like their quarterback can't carry anybody. Okay, like before Waddle and McDaniel got there, he was a mid-athlete. He was struggling. And then after their edge rushers got hurt, it's just over. Like the Bills fired their offensive coordinator in the middle of the season. It was like they've lost Matt Milano, right, who's just as important as Jalen Phillips. They lost Trey White. Guess what? It still got put together, and they still ended up taking the division from the Dolphins. And this has been like the all-in moment for the Dolphins. They pushed all their chips in. They don't have any draft capital. They don't have any cap space. And they don't have any division titles to show for it, much less a playoff win. They've been in the wild card round with this quarterback. And it's like, you want to lock yourself in? You've got to go beat the Bills. So you didn't build the team that could even do that, much less win the Super Bowl. Like, wash your hands of it. You can build something else back. It's not going to be a disaster forever. Once you get the resources, you can bring in more talent, and it will be different talent. It's like you got the hand in Scrabble, and you're taking a turn to swap it out because it didn't work. And I feel like they're, again, like in this very similar position to the Saints, where they've just been mid, really. Like, first-round exit team, that is mid, in my opinion. And you're going to just continue to pour all your resources into this. Like, I get that maybe things would have gone differently if they had Chubb and if they had Phillips, but they probably wouldn't have beaten the Chiefs in that game. The offense sucked. You're right. The offense was bad, and you still got to fix the whole offensive line, and they're all leaving, which is, I mean, more than just the Tua decision. They've got to address this offseason.
That's the thing is, like, yeah, they have a lot of things to fix on top of Tua's going to ask for money. Or Tua is asking for money. We don't know exactly what it is.
Well, he's certainly going to be asking for, I would hope it's good business to ask for money if you're Tua, I think. So,
yeah, I mean, right. I would hope he's asking for money. But yeah, that's just the tricky thing is like, they're already 28 million. I will say they're 10 million over because I'm just going to imply that the June 1st cutting of Howard just happens. So, I mean, they're already 10 million over, and they have quite a few guys to replace.
Yeah, they need offensive line. They need corners. They need really
Christian Wilkins is probably going to get a bag too.
Yeah, they've got to pay Christian Wilkins. I just think that they've got a lot that it didn't work. I think that they kind of went all in on this team, and I think in 2 years it could look and should look completely different. They had an iteration. They spent a bunch of money. They used a bunch of draft picks and got one taken away for tampering with Tom Brady. And it didn't result in a playoff win. So
right.
I think there's only so many resources you could sink into something that doesn't really look super fruitful. So that's my take on the Dolphins. I think they should pivot.
What if the Dolphins traded for Justin Fields?
Him to Atlanta
I'd
seems
want
like
a much,
such a lock right now.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to move on from Tua, I'd like probably something a bit more fresh than another bust retread. Not that Tua has even been a bust, really, like Fields has. So that's why it's kind of tough to go from Tua to Fields, although I do think Fields has a shot to succeed somewhere else.
Maybe. That run game would be crazy.
It would.
But it would also be crazy in Atlanta. But yeah, the Dolphins are just kind of in a tough spot right now. Should we move on to? We were just talking about Buffalo. Do you want to move on to them?
Yes, I have another big trade idea.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it
Well,
Diggs?
It is Diggs.
Okay.
It is Diggs. They're in a bit of a tight spot as well in their cap situation. What are they like? I think they're dead last. They're $40 million over.
It's pretty rough for them. I don't know what the total asset calculator says.
I saw negative 41 million over the cap right now, and I think cutting Trey White would kind of suck because he's had such bad luck with the injuries, but it might be a necessity. Mitch Morse could potentially get cut. Jordan Poyer, Hardy, Hines. Am I forgetting somebody?
The tricky thing with Buffalo is their defense is ancient and it's constantly hurt. I mean, it is constantly injured. And outside of what? Rousseau and Milano? Like who is really worth keeping around at this point?
Yeah, I think that their defense could use several pieces. Their entire front seven is going to have to be rebuilt because they're all hitting free agency. Floyd, Leonard Floyd, Linval Joseph, Puna Ford, Daquan Jones is hitting free agency. That's a big one. AJ Epinesa is hitting free agency. Basically, all the Shaq Lawson is hitting free agency. Like they're going to have to completely rebuild their defensive line. And I think trading Diggs could give you a lot of breathing room to invest on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that they are the type of situation that could survive trading their star wide receiver away. I think someone could benefit from adding Diggs, and I don't think losing him would be the nail in the coffin for the Bills. You look at the big wide receiver trades that have happened, it's like Devontae Adams got traded away from Green Bay because they had Aaron Rodgers, and you never needed to give Aaron Rodgers a first round pick at wide receiver. Like their second round picks became team Hall of Famers left and right, like Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, like James Jones, Devontae Adams, like Randall Cobb. None of these guys are first round guys, but it's okay because you have Aaron Rodgers, and that creates an environment for these wide receivers to hit their potential. Patrick Mahomes, like all those wide receivers were kind of ass, but they traded away Tyreek Hill, and their offense still was able to click because they had that guy at quarterback and Kelsey, obviously.
Yeah, they also had Kelsey.
But Kelsey, 2023 Travis Kelsey production is not impossible for like Dalton Kincaid to replicate.
No.
Right.
No, it's
maybe 2017 Kelsey production is impossible for him to replicate, but not 2023. And if they traded Diggs away and drafted a wide receiver like the Vikings did, you'd have Allen, you'd have Kincaid and Knox, you'd have Shakir, who is number one in success rate when Josh Allen threw to him. And then you could have Lad McConkey and I don't know, Brian Thomas Jr. if you got some guys early with Josh Allen, and you'd have James Cook, who's a good option out of the backfield. It's like, I think that Josh Allen is good enough that those skill position players would work and the offense would still be good because you have like an MVP candidate guy. Your cap situation becomes more manageable, and Diggs has kind of had some drama with the team anyway. Like, he's not I don't think of Diggs as like a top 10 guy anymore. And if he still has value, like, I think it would be kind of smart business for them to move on from that contract and now, as opposed to like letting it play out all the way through. Because again, like, I don't know if he's a top 10 guy right now, but I think he would still be worth something in a trade.
Yeah, I don't entirely disagree. You wouldn't save a ton moving on from Diggs. I think you'd save a little bit more restructuring.
That's the thing, is like, would it be worth it?
You could save about $10 million, right, in the short term. Now, in the long term, the difference between restructuring and trading him is very, very different, because you are getting off that money a little bit sooner. You're not pushing things farther into the future. Although, is it good to push things far into the future? Who knows, right? I do agree that Diggs is probably on the decline, and if you could get a mid to high second, or even more, hopefully like a late first,
like
him.
a day two pick and a player, some sort of and like
I
how
think
good
it's
the player
kind
is
of-
might depend, something like that. That's what I had in my head.
I agree. You think about, the Chiefs and how they lost Tyreek Hill. At some point, when you get to a competitive team like this and you haven't won the Super Bowl, so maybe it's a little bit different, but you have to make a gamble. You have to cut something. You have to lose something. You can't just pay everybody forever and restructure everything. And if I were the Chiefs, or if I were the Bills, my fault, maybe the gamble you take is that we can create a good passing offense without Stephon Diggs at this point. Allen and the other guys we put around him and a draft pick could be very, very good still. And we wouldn't be locked into our second highest paid player. It might be,
The Packers strategy,
and
could you build a
before.
Packers caliber receiving core? Yeah. And I think you could. It wouldn't take much with Josh Allen. If you gave him Romeo Doubs and a Dontavian Wicks, they would be good. It's fine.
And it's just,
I'm telling you, Brian Thomas is nice, and
$20 million to Gabe Davis. And then
Gabe Davis is not factoring in
170 targets. I'm seeing it now.
Yes, Gabe Davis is also a free agent. I guess I didn't consider that he might factor into this new look wide receiving core. I would say maybe neither him nor Diggs around, and build around Dalton Kincaid would legitimately be my position if I was in the Bills organization. I'm sure that there's a team don't trade Diggs there right now, and I'm sure that there's a team trade Diggs in their decision-making room. I would be on team it's okay to trade Diggs away. I really do think so. I think that, again, it's kind of run a course. I think he could be, if a team like the Giants wants to bring in a rookie quarterback and wants Diggs to maybe provide what he provided Josh Allen, which is one reliable target. Say hey man, Kayvon Thibodeau in a second. Let's make it happen.
I'm looking at it
might
now,
be too much.
and if they traded him after June 1st, they would save $10.5 million. It'd be 19. They traded Diggs after June 1st, they would save $19 million.
How much would they save?
It's a big question. It's a big question for them. I think I certainly think that it's on the table, whether it happened before the draft or after. I certainly think that that's on the table for them. And then outside of that, it's find a way to make the defense top tier again with all of these defensive linemen leaving. You've got to find a couple starters somehow, probably through the draft. So as you say, Matt, every team's strategy should just be draft good. But outside of that, for the Bills, I think that creating wiggle room with a Diggs trade could be worth it.
Yep. Outside of that, it's going to be a lot of restructuring, a lot of trying to keep who you can keep.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be a big all-in off season. Von Miller trade puts them in timeout, I think, for a bit, or signing, not trade.
Maybe a little bit. But yeah. Anyway. Bills kind of keeps it simple there. Next up, do we want to talk about the New York Jets? I think they have a pretty similar evaluation as the Browns, honestly.
Do you?
Well, it's just because last year they had such a great defense and such a bad offense, and the one thing you're looking for is the quarterback improvement when they're getting Rodgers back. The only difference is that the Jets have $22 million in cap to work with this offseason, which is pretty nice. And if, between free agency and the draft, you could probably piece together that offensive line a little bit more, maybe add another weapon. I don't know if you really need to do much to the defense right now.
I think you got it. I think DJ Reed is a guy you want to bring back, and I'd like to bring back Bryce Huff as well, possibly. I'll say this, bro. Okay. This Jets shit probably not going to work out in the Super Bowl. No, windows looking wildly tight. Let's keep it real. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is 400
Maybe
years
Rodgers
old
can
can
slide in like Indiana Jones in the first movie when the wall is closing.
The deal with them is
this might be like the last Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, you're right. He's too old for this shit. Anyway, that might be
The deal
quote.
with them, is like if the Rodgers stuff doesn't work out, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna go find another. It's just not realistic, bro. So I say,
Well, maybe you could
got
draft the guy at 10.
Maybe,
Come on,
maybe. If Daniels is there, you could think about it. I think you don't, Theo. You don't think Daniels or Bo Nix or Penix or JJ McCarthy are good.
Well, you just said yes, but you just said there might not be a guy outside of Rodgers, and they do have the number 10 overall pick. So it's like if more so than like the Dolphins, there is a possibility that they could like.
If Bo Nix is there in the second or the third, I might consider it.
But anyway, go on, Matt. I'm sorry. I derailed the point you were making to interject that they could potentially add a quarterback, but I don't want to.
Well, I'd say the Dolphins could too, unless you think none of those guys are falling to 21, which they have the 21st overall pick, Miami. I will say this. I think that in the Rodgers era, like it's got to be Rodgers, bro. You just have to have some faith that he's going to come back and play good.
I agree.
You can bring in a backup if you'd like. You could bring in like maybe you target like a Brissett level dude. Not a bad idea, because I think the defense is so good. You want to give it a real shot. But the reality is that the offense outside of Rodgers sucks, dude. It's really not very good. And I think that's partially masked by the fact that they didn't have a serious quarterback option last year. But offensive line is not very good, and it's just Garrett Wilson as far as weapons go, and then Breece Hall, of course. If I'm them, and I say I got $22 million in cap space, I got a top 10 pick in this top-heavy draft, and I could restructure guys and get aggressive and have a whole bunch of money and just go balls to the wall and give it one real good swing, I'd do that. That's what my play would be. If I was Saleh, that's what my move would be.
And if I was, is Joe Douglas still their GM after all of this?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes, he is. He did not get fired after. Yeah. Why not if you're him, right? Like, Jesus Christ. At this
point, it's like, what other moves are we talking? Like,
his Zach Wilson idea didn't work, and then Rodgers didn't work. Like,
yeah, you're not going to quarterback three. Sorry.
No. I was looking at it, and I heard what Mecole Hardman said, where they were just like, I hope Rodgers will just fix all of our issues. And then he got hurt, and there was nothing, and no one knew what they were doing. That's what Mecole Hardman said. And I'm like, well, I guess the idea, and then I remember the Packers coaches saying, like, things were kind of easier for us this year because last season Rodgers would change so much at the line of scrimmage that the play called would not really resemble the play being run, which worked. Like, that's not really even Rodgers slander, because the offense was very good while Rodgers was just kind of molding it to what he saw pre-snap, right? That's why he doesn't like motion. That's why he just wants like a canvas and then hot route everything and audible everything. So there is a real chance that like he comes back, does the same Rodgers, like he knows all the coverages and shit. Like he might just actually be able to be offensive coordinator on the field, get the looks that he likes, run the play, and everything will run. Even if he's old as shit, like everything will run way smoother. I think that has got to be your hope, because like you said, Matt, you're in it. You didn't see it. Like he's under contract another year. You might as well take a look see. And in the meantime, build the offensive line basically as good as you can get it. That would be my philosophy. This depth, bro. Number 10 pick.
You have to tell Rodgers, sorry, bro, I don't care who your BFF is. I don't care if they're your friends, bro. Your friends are
even if DeGuara is in free agency and no one has signed him, and Rodgers,
that's a little different, and you know it. And that was a dirty thing to bring up.
He said, if Rodgers said DeGuara was a Joe Rogan podcast listener like me, and we talked about the secrets of the universe as locker mates back in the 21 preseason, you got to bring in DeGuara, bro. He's good people.
Blind squirrel finding a nut, that would be, in my opinion.
I don't know. I do think that Rodgers could be a little Brady-esque at the end of this line. Like, even a worst case scenario, Rodgers is still probably a top 10-ish quarterback.
A worst case scenario, Rodgers is like a horrifying fucking disaster, dog. He is 40 years old coming off an Achilles injury. He could be unplayably bad. I have no idea. I have no idea how good he's going to be. I don't even have a reasonable guess. He could be in that top 10 range, or he could be like unbelievably ass. Either one, I think is a possibility. But if you're the Jets, I always think about that Peyton Manning quote. I forget who said it, but they're like, we don't practice with the backups because if 18 goes down, we're fucked. If Rodgers sucks, you're fucked, dude. But you can't practice fucked. You can't go into this offseason being like, well, we don't know what's going to, we have to half plan for Rodgers being hurt. Get yourself a backup and then just go all in on this year. Your defense is so good. Do that. Right. And get some weapons. If Bowers is there at 10, somebody brought that up. Hell yeah. Get some depth and build out that offensive line. And maybe worst case scenario, Rodgers is bad. You have a good backup. The weapons aren't bad. The offensive line's not bad. The run game gets going and the defense is number one. That team could do some damage. It's possible. It's been done before, a team winning like that. So why not give yourself a chance at it?
Yeah, I think you got to see what you traded for. And I guess that Bakhtiari will probably be getting cut, and then you could sign a Rodgers bestie, like the king of all Rodgers besties, Bakhtiari, and get a good offensive lineman.
And maybe that'll satisfy him enough so where you can get a real receiver too. Yeah, that would be dope.
And then he'll accept that you don't trade the 10th overall pick for Devontae Adams. If you can get Bakhtiari.
We gotta find like a receiver in this like a 5th round receiver in the draft that's like really good, but also like agrees with Rodgers on shit.
Yeah, we need to find whoever the most like Reddit receiver is and bring him in the draft, and Rodgers and him will connect instantly.
Yeah, and then Garrett Wilson's going to be interview. Awful in fantasy.
Yeah, seriously, they're like,
what are your favorite Reddit communities, would you say, if you have any?
Yeah, like whatever wide receiver likes Elon Musk the most,
whichever receiver hates vaccines the most.
Yes. Are you vaxxed?
Are you vaxxed?
Have you ever looked at Dogecoin?
I can say.
Are you heartened by the Bitcoin spike? Yes, yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that.
So real.
Son, you are a New York Jet.
Son, this is like as they're calling him. They're like, before we make this pick, we just got to know.
Do you? I don't know. Yeah,
that's what I think.
I don't know how else to build on this comedically. Yeah, I agree. Let's move to the last team in this division, the New England Patriots, who have the number 3 overall pick, and they need a quarterback.
Should they take Daniels?
No. They should take the super awesome receiver, I think.
Yeah, Xavier Legette, right?
Stop.
No
shot. Although Gamecock, I'm not mad at it. However,
Luke McCaffrey.
I would take Marv. I'd start to build out that offense. I mean, I'm not necessarily the biggest believer in like the whole you need to build out the rest of the offense before you get the quarterback, because that assumes that like every single year you're just going to have like some perfect opportunity to get a franchise quarterback. Most teams, most years cannot get a franchise quarterback, even if they wanted to. It's just not an option for them. Mm-hmm. There's no trade they can make. There's no player they can sign. There's nobody they can draft. That's how it goes most years. Think about like the 2021 draft, right? Lawrence is a franchise guy. Everybody else, not really. So if you didn't have the number 1 overall pick, reality was you couldn't have done it, right? That's the truth. I think here it's like if you don't have the first 2 picks, odds are, not a guarantee. I like some of the other guys. I like Daniels a decent amount. Odds are there's just not like a good enough shot at the franchise QB to use the number 3 overall pick on it. And I think when you have a player as good as Marv available, it's worth it to build things out right now and not just go take the quarterback and give him a terrible offense. Like if it was May or if it was Williams, get the quarterback and you can figure out the receivers, I'm sure. But in this circumstance, the other options aren't good enough. I'm going
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going
it's
receiver.
it's like the Stingley example I used earlier. Like, even though the Texans had no franchise quarterback, they didn't leave that draft with one, but they did get a potential All-Pro corner. So,
Yeah.
and again, like, the opportunity came in the future, and obviously everybody knew about Stroud, so that maybe they could bank on that. Whereas there is seemingly no Stroud caliber prospect coming next year, but you never know who could pop up. I think that it's not the exact same scenario, but the logic is the same. And like, Marv is more of a sure thing and a clear workhorse, and he can get it done with Kyle McCord, and he can get it done with Mac Jones or whoever you do. They've got a couple key free agents: Kyle Duggar, Afrene Jennings, and Owenu, the offensive lineman, who has kind of bounced around, and they've never really found a spot for him, even though he's been pretty good when they've played him. I think at least the defensive players are worth bringing back. They have a ton of cap space. Like, Jennings was maybe the best run defender in the league last year. Duggar's a great safety for them. They've been a top tier defense. I don't see why not like bring these franchise type guys back, or good starters back at least, because they're with the old regime doesn't mean you should just completely wipe your hands clean of the picks that Belichick did hit on. So I think that those guys would be good to target and retain. And then, yeah, just the bad man is gone, I guess, in Bill Belichick. The guy who tried to get too cute, and the guy who I read at the combine that they like had a role-based grading system that they threw out and are using something different to grade prospects. And it's like, good, because Cole Strange was not a good pick, man. Like, redo the way you do the draft, take a workhorse wide receiver, like, retain the picks you did hit on, and just start to build a good team again. I feel like that's what would make me the most excited as a Patriots fan, instead of immediately thinking, no quarterback, need quarterback, passing up on several generational receivers for quarterback that might not work out. So, yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
I think I speak for all of us and
You
speak
do.
for what we've kind of already said.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little bit interested to see how their defense looks this year without Belichick, because I imagine they're not going to try and reinvent the wheel. But
yeah, they kept
always,
they kept the same coaching
Right.
staff. So I don't know why you would get rid of like the unique defensive players.
It's just it's always
scheme.
funny to think about, like, when J.C. Jackson left and he was like, he led the league in interceptions, and all of a sudden he's like the worst corner in football.
Yeah, I guess it is the Patriot way to let these guys like walk, and then you just find a new one from your army of like 5th round picks. But
Your army.
I don't know. I think
you have to trust that they're not going to reinvent the wheel on defense, and that the guys that they had were actually good because they looked good.
Yeah, so. I think it's okay to kind of take the slow play instead of swinging on a quarterback. So, which has kind of been my theme for the episode, is like, you can kind of. This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you just pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And they also now offer Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. A couple weeks ago, I hit a big one on Prize Picks with my Browns versus Jets play with Njoku and Flacco and Breece Hall, and you can too. So head on over to Prize Picks, use the code STAYHOT, and they will double your first deposit, or prizepicks.com/stayhot and use code STAYHOT for a first deposit match up to $100. So what are you waiting for? Head on over there. Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA Flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
That being said, moving on to the other East and moving on to one of the other East teams that should not take the slow play on a quarterback. The Washington Commanders absolutely should take Drake May. There's been some rumblings they should do otherwise. They should not. May is so nice.
What are these rumblings? What are the alternatives?
Just like either some people are saying Daniel, some people are saying like Marv,
a good
or like
quarterback
May isn't
too.
good enough.
Like,
we shouldn't do that. And he's an insane quarterback too. He really is. I think they would be lunatics not to go May. They have a lot of problems. But what I like about Washington's situation, I've been saying this for a while now. You got in position to get the QB. That's the hard part, man. And I feel like the receivers there are not that bad. Curtis Samuel, Dotson, Terry McLaurin. You could do a lot worse of a starting point than that, no doubt. The offensive line certainly needs some work, but they have a lot of money, and they have 2 second-round draft picks that are both pretty high. And they have new ownership who I know the report card came out and was very bad. So I think I think the new ownership hopefully can start to change some of that. And you could see maybe not a complete team because there's some like really bad holes on this roster. Edge rusher, disaster right after because they traded both their guys away.
I think you might just kind of have to take an L on defense next year.
Exactly. I think defense maybe won't be great, but if we can get a good supporting cast, nice offensive line, nice receivers, defense can be the second thing you figure out. It's that the offense around May, and then the owners inspiring some confidence in the organization here a little bit. You know, let's go spend and make our facilities.
Are you suggesting a rebrand?
Worst. I'm not. Well, hold on.
Oh,
I if they wanted to, I wouldn't be mad at it. Commanders is fine. It hasn't moved me one way or the other. It's one of the names in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. But I'm really talking more about like all the players are saying they don't, get very good food and then the locker rooms
they
suck.
hate it.
That can be changed, and that does matter. I think it really does matter to those guys. So you could fix that. You could build a solid offense around a really good quarterback prospect. That would be my plan if I was Bob Myers or whoever.
Yeah, you got to do something to just not be the most joke, embarrassing organization in the league like they've been. I mean, we've seen teams that were poverty and that have been jokes over the course of history, like change that and then, become better. And a lot of that comes down to just getting a franchise quarterback. So even though there are reasons to be concerned that they couldn't handle one right now, the line, like they're going to lose a bunch of games next year because there's just no way they can fix their offense and their defense. But like, do what you can. I think that it could be worth it to spend even on one of the running backs. If all of these good running backs are going to hit free agency, maybe you can't fix the line in one fell swoop this offseason, but like maybe get a tight end and a running back for like easy relief for a quarterback instead of like, you have to air it out like downfield to McLaurin. Like, I think McLaurin's a very good receiver, obviously. Like, the receiver room is good, but I would definitely be interested in adding some threats closer to the line of scrimmage as well, like a running back or tight end, because the line is going to be bad. There's no way they can fix it all. They should try, but I think it could be an underrated play for them to pair a rookie quarterback with like one of these, like a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs plus a, like a talented tight end. And they do have 5 picks in the first 2 days. So we'll see. We'll see. It's definitely not the most inspiring place for a young player to go. Like, they are the worst organization. They made the most uninspired head coaching choice. Like, their defense is awful and their line is pretty bad too. Like, there are a lot of things that make me think like, man, it's going to be kind of on hard mode if you go there as a rookie quarterback. But there's nothing else to be done. Like you're going to have to just make it better. You have to just make it better. So
the head coach hire was tough, but I wonder if they just didn't get their first choice. They kind of got screwed a little bit on that.
They made it very clear that they got screwed a little bit. They made it very, very clear in the media that they got screwed.
Fair enough.
But still, like they're Washington and they get screwed, right?
Mm-hmm. But I think more so than if just like a bad organization had a high pick with a good quarterback there. You got new ownership. It could easily be turned into a good offense around that quarterback. And I really like the prospect themselves. So I'd be pretty excited if I was a Washington fan. More excited than I was last year or the year before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You should definitely. This is definitely like Washington has a chance to change the trajectory of their whole franchise this offseason. It hasn't happened yet. And right now their trajectory is like still bad, even with the new owners. But they have a chance to make some big waves. But they have to take May. Otherwise, there's just no shot that they're good next year.
There, you know.
I don't know. I was thinking about this though. My mock trade, like if the Vikings wanted to trade up and get May, I know Josh McCown was May's like high school coach or whatever, and they used Justin Jefferson as ammo. Could that move you to trade the second overall pick? This is not a prediction or a projection, but just a question that I'm asking.
If they packaged Jefferson to get up to 2,
I would not do that if I was Washington. That doesn't make any sense.
That's like, what I'm thinking, man.
What would be your game plan? And it's like, well, how could you say that Drake May is more valuable than Jefferson? Like, maybe he's not, but like, don't you kind of have to take the dice roll on him? Like, what is your other real great solid quarterback option? You're rolling back with Howell, I guess. I mean, Jefferson's a baller. Jefferson's a beast.
Yeah,
it just feels like, okay, well,
yeah. I think the thing that would make me like really worried about that move is just like, would you even be better off than Minnesota? Like if you got Jefferson, like just say Jefferson's on the Commanders now instead of on the Vikings, are the Commanders better off than the Vikings?
Minnesota has been like,
right.
The Vikings haven't won anything with Jefferson, right?
It'd be like the Wizards to trade for Steph Curry. It's like, I mean, you probably like, maybe it could be like good value, but like, what exactly is the game plan there long term?
It's a good point.
So you're gonna trade your young quarterback for a wide receiver who you have to pay, I'm assuming like $30-something million a year. I mean, he's dope. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. He's one of the nicest receivers I've ever seen. Need the QB though, unfortunately.
Right.
So,
yeah. I just was wondering because, like, there's been so much kind of smoke with the Jefferson contract not being done yet, and like, why is it not done yet if they're not having these conversations? And like, it is kind of clear that the Vikings should be looking for a different quarterback. So connecting the dots, could they use Jefferson as trade ammo? I don't think that they will, but it's a potential thing. But I think what it comes down to is like, even if they wanted to use Jefferson as trade ammo, like, I don't think that it would be possible to move to the top 2. I agree with what you guys are saying. And I don't think the Bears would like willingly trade Caleb Williams to the Vikings, even if it might give, maybe if they just hated Caleb's film, I guess, but Ryan Poles was there when they drafted Mahomes, and I can't imagine that this is like way different than that. But anyway.
Yeah. Commanders need a QB. The Giants might also need a QB, and they're picking at 6.
They are in not a very good spot as a franchise, unfortunately.
No, I've been watching more and more Daniels, and it's like, I think he's still worth a first round draft pick, but I am starting to feel like He's a long shot guy. I feel like the top two guys are great, and everybody else is a pretty serious long shot to be a franchise quarterback, even if there are some reasons to take a chance or take that long shot, right? At 6, with how good the top of this draft is and how bad your weapons are still, it's like I might want one of the receivers if I can get them. I might just want to play, like, take that and not burn that. But at the same time, does it not feel like, what are you going to do with QB? What's the game plan? They just run it back with Jones, I guess.
No,
right. Hope things go better.
That's exactly what it feels like. No, it feels a little bit doomed. They need to identify some other quarterback that's like that dude and be right. And he's like, are we going to look back at this class and say, like, well, maybe it's not Caleb or maybe it's not Matt, maybe it's Penix, like in round 3. I don't know. Like, who is there anybody else who's a franchise quarterback? They've got to be the ones to identify it. And then I don't know. I think at 6, Neighbors would be my mock pick. I think that he could be a wide receiver 1 on a championship team type potential. So I'd probably just take him, like you're saying, Matt, and then maybe add some competition for Jones and see what he looks like with a real weapon and some offensive linemen. But yeah, it's a pretty tough situation that they're in, and I can't really see a way out in being a contender. So
there are a lot of teams at the top of this draft that we keep saying they need a receiver, they need a weapon, and there's not that many guys to go. Like if we're talking about the big 4, and there's like 8 picks to get it done with.
I agree.
Maybe you spam Ryan Poles every day with calls.
Is it a guarantee that you
want to trade down
Neighbors?
I don't know. It's a guarantee that you get one of the elite weapons. So maybe it's not Neighbors and he goes number 4, but like math.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is a guarantee, man. It's just like I guess you'll get one of the 4 because you're at 6, right?
Yeah.
But,
yes. So that is a guarantee.
Yeah, you'll get one of the 6, or you'll get one of the 4 because you're at 6. But there's just like a lot of guys. Someone's gonna get a few.
It's a very real possibility that Neighbors goes at like 4, and then maybe they don't have a top 10 grade on a Dunze or Bowers, which would be awkward for them certainly. But I don't know. I could see them as maybe a trade potential for this reason, where it's like. Seeing them at 6 and I'm like not super inspired, so maybe they just won't stay there. Like that is a pretty common sense thing. Like I said, I'd be bugging Poles every single day and saying, remember how good it worked out last year? Ooh, you love to trade your picks for players. I'll give you Dexter Lawrence for Caleb Williams. Like, wouldn't that be a home run? And then like that might save my ass, honestly. Like Dexter's like super amazing, but really there would be no player off the table. Like take your pick, Mr. Poles, and then go for Caleb would probably be my like number 1 idea if I was them. But I think the Bears are going to take a quarterback, and I think Washington is going to take a quarterback, and I don't think they would trade with New York even if they didn't. So I think focusing on wide receiver, I think replacing Evan Neal, I'm afraid, would be on my priority list. Maybe he can move to guard, and I'd probably try that. I don't really have the like highest of high hopes for that to work out. Like some position switch, just magically making him a beast and like fixing all of his balance and like agility problems. You kind of still need that at guard too. So maybe re-sign McKinney. Yeah, that could be nice.
Yeah, and this is another team where outside of the quarterback issue, they just got to hit on picks. I definitely have moved a little bit lower on they should take Daniels at 6, or like I get it. I get it, man. Because we want to do something, and I think it'd be pretty fun, honestly. I really do. I wonder if they could cook up something with that, but I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about that. Daniels is an interesting guy.
Yeah, in terms of what they should do, like nothing clear. They should do whatever they want. I don't know. I think that they should certainly add their choice is either quarterback or weapon. So that's
do whatever.
They'll probably do something like that or trade back. I don't care. I guess my hottest take is like I would try to trade up for number 1, and I would offer literally any player on the roster for it, even if it's Dexter Lawrence, even if it's like Andrew Thomas. I would say, like, save us.
Another future first, maybe multiple future firsts, and any player they want.
Maybe I don't know, man. It's just like I don't know what else would work. I don't know what else would work besides like Caleb is a beast, and even then it might come down to like, well, the line sucks and the receivers suck, and now Dexter is gone, and like, yeah, maybe I just resign, man.
If you're the Giants GM, you just call it quits.
I'm stumped.
I get it, bro.
That's tough, man. Well, let's move on. We can move on to a team that'll hopefully stump you a little bit less. Do you want to do the Philadelphia Eagles, who had one of the worst defenses in the NFL for the back half of the year?
They're pretty easy because like their main thing is just like coach better. It feels like there's not really like they're not going to trade anybody big. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like they have kind of their roster pretty set. Like just coach better. And I think they need to flow not just through their receivers on offense as much. They need to get more production from the backs. So maybe pursue like a Saquon or the same thing as Washington, like Josh Jacobs or Derrick Henry or something like that, and shore up the backfield. And
they've got money to make those kind of moves happen.
Yeah, and it's not going to be super expensive to do that. And then I would like to see the tight end more heavily involved next year. Like they didn't really get much out of Goddard, who was banged up this season. So I think just those tweaks where it's like not so heavily flowing through both of the wide receivers and like Hurts running the ball and just get a bit more balance across the board like they had when they went to the Super Bowl would be good. And that can all pretty much be done in-house and with a new running back who, if you haven't heard, it's the most abundant like class of good running backs in free agency history. So we need to talk about that with the Giants, like if they should bring Saquon back, but
I mean, depends on the deal, bro. If it's short term, yeah, I'm probably down because I think they stink,
didn't want to extend them before. Why would they do it now?
Saquon's what? Is he 28 years old? 27? I mean, dude, I love him. Reality of the situation is like you cannot pay running backs big money once they turn 28. It is a bad idea. That is a bad idea almost all of the time. Now, I've been burned on the anti-running back stuff a little bit. I think I was a little bit too heavy on that in the last couple of years. But if you're going to give them a bunch of guaranteed money past year 28, it could be bad. There could be a point where you want to move off of them and you can't do it anymore. I think other than that, though, it's like, am I letting a weapon walk? Like one of my cool weapons walk? Like probably not, bro. Because what else are you going to do? You know, I got to keep some talent.
That's my thing with Saquon. Like if you need someone good on offense. And I do think that Saquon is good. He does not have the electricity that he had as a rookie. Post ACL tear, he is much more sluggish than he was, unfortunately. But I do think that he has gotten a lot better adjusting to his kind of lack of edge burning ability. Like I actually like watching him work between the tackles a lot. I think he sets guys up and anticipates small creases and tries to fit himself through those small creases to pick up yards. Like he does like a good dirty work between the tackles, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I do think that he's still a useful player, and it's not like he's completely juiceless. I think a lot of the issue is the line in front of him has just been so terrible. So I could see bringing him back, and I could see him being valuable to a different NFC East team, whether that be the Washington Commanders or Philadelphia Eagles. But yeah, I think they don't have to do too much. Patricia was such a horrible play caller for them. Like add some variety, add some like, I don't know, get guys to tackle again. Like I don't understand why that wasn't happening at all.
I don't think it's a needless team. I think you need a little bit more depth at receiver. I think you definitely need some linebackers, man. And I look at some of those top guys in the draft, especially consider the Eagles have 2 second-round draft picks. I look at those top guys in the draft like Peyton Wilson and Cooper from Texas A&M. I'd be stunned if the Eagles left day 1 and 2 without a linebacker. I think I
100% agree that it's a must. Or move Nolan Smith or something.
Yeah. They are one of the top teams that needs linebacker the baddest. They can afford to reach a little bit on those guys, whereas maybe a lot of teams need linebacker, but if you're building up a squad, you might not be willing to reach on that as much as, you want to take BPA. Eagles not in that position. I think they could also use some more defensive backs, some more corners.
I was about
to say, starting to get a little bit older there.
Would probably be.
Certainly they're not needless. I'm just saying they're the most straightforward. I wonder what I have no big edge. Trade for them. I guess.
Yeah, I agree. No big. I think they could. I wonder what they're going to do at edge. I think I would stick with Reddick if I could. I think it's going to be tough to address everything. I agree that I think what their offensive line plan is. I guess I trust them mostly on that, but you got to make sure that you're set at center after Kelsey leaves. And I think running back really is a massive, massive need for them. It is a huge problem. Their offensive line, even with Kelsey going, is way too good to burn it on somebody who is not a plus runner. So I think I could argue secondary, linebacker, maybe some edge, maybe a little bit of offensive line. They always invest. They probably should keep doing that. That's kept them pretty darn good for a while. Yeah. And then running back, that's very addressable, it feels like. And I don't know what their cap situation is like. Is it way bad? I'm assuming even if it is.
No, they've got 27 million right now.
That is honestly pretty shocking. I'd be aggressive. I know there was some talks about maybe Reddick
27
departing.
million
I would probably
with
keep
65 players rostered. Am I reading that right?
Yeah. All right. So they're in a good spot too. I don't know. That's what I would focus on. Me personally.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think it'll be pretty easy if the coaching works out. There's no reason why they wouldn't have one of the better rosters in the division in the conference next season. If they were at one point 9-1 or whatever it was this year until Sirianni started messing with the defensive coordinator spot and ruined everything. So I don't see why they couldn't get off to a hot start and actually continue it next year if Vic Fangio is still competent, a competent defensive coordinator, which Matt Patricia was not. And yeah, I obviously agree. They can afford to reach on linebacker. They pick your favorite if there's you trade back if you want it, but make that a priority. Whoever your favorite guy is, leave the draft with that guy. Right. So I definitely think that that's a good strategy. I don't want Kelsey to come back. That was what I was thinking. I'm he's this undersized center who has the entire sports media world at his disposal. Don't come back. You don't have to come back, man. Protect your body. Protect your health. Dude, if he came back, I would have kind of bad vibes. He has a ring. He had the emotional final game. It's is he a free agent too? I assume that he would go back with the Eagles, maybe for a discount rate, but he hasn't made a call yet. I don't know.
I could see
just leave, man. Leave it behind.
If the Eagles couldn't find a center, I could see them begging him, please come back. But
they drafted Jurgens as a center. Why wouldn't they be able to find a center?
Yeah.
They drafted Jurgens, and then he's been playing guard, so maybe you find a center, maybe you move Jurgens there and find a guard. It's not impossible to find a capable guard. But, I guess I'd be working under the assumption that Kelsey's not back.
Anyway,
the Dallas Cowboys, talk about spending money on quarterback, man. They are going into this year with the most cap allocated to the QB position. Number one.
I don't know what else you're supposed to do. I don't know what else you're supposed to do.
Dak is good enough that I would pay him.
I just don't think that you can realistically find a Dak replacement, man. I'm sorry. It probably just can't happen. Unless, hey, maybe the Bears want Dak for that number one. I'll swap the first. I'll make that happen. Who knows?
Why would they take that? Why would you trade Dak for the number one overall?
You were talking a second ago about a first and Dexter Lawrence. Yes, for the Giants.
That makes, a first and more, but like centering it around that.
I guess maybe you could send Dak in picks rather than that solves my quarterback problem. If I'm regardless, neither of these two things are happening, and I'm not even suggesting that it should be the thing that they do.
Almost got no Mo Alley Cox, Austin Hooper discussion there. What trade is better, Dak? And
what awful trade
Lawrence
is going to work out?
I think you got to keep Dak, and you got to restructure guys, and you got to try to build up that defense and fill it out a little bit more. Hope corner is better with Diggs back next year. You also need some linebackers. You need some true linebackers, and you can't run 100 safeties. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no defensive backs.
And I know you spent on defensive tackle, safeties. But it's still a need, bro. It still is, man. Mozzie Smith did not change their life last year, so I'd worry about building up that defense.
He made it worse. So I wonder if I'm excited to see Bland and Diggs both as starters next year.
It's going to be awesome. I think that's going to go.
How many pick sixes can we get?
You got to throw at one of the gamblers. Like I kind of think that's going to be dope. I think that's going to be so sick. There's no avoiding it anymore. There's no hiding.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a touchdown or a pick six. Could be.
I'm throwing into a tight end up the seam, unfortunately, but still, that's good.
I'm very excited for their corners. I think like what we saw like the year after Bland was, or not the year after Bland, the year after Diggs, everyone was like, oh, well, the pick sixes aren't going to replicate themselves, and they didn't, but I feel like Diggs just became a better corner also, and you could see that. I think you could see a similar thing happen with Bland, and then you just have two corners with great ball skills that are also just getting better at corner consistently.
Yeah. So yeah, Diggs definitely did not. There was that one season where it was really, really crazy with him, and then they really did kind of stop throwing to his side.
Right.
It's going to go really well, and then they're going to play the 49ers, and then that's going to be the disaster game, and they're going to get caught gambling, and Ayuk is going to burn them on a double move. Although maybe Ayuk will be traded.
No, they're just going to get beat in, like, they're just going to get beat over the middle because they're just going to run their 40 million crossers.
Their offensive line is a concern. Tyron Smith is a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Martin is getting up there, and Terrence Steele kind of took a step back last year. So you're kind of looking at it like, okay, we have Tyler Smith, who's a cornerstone, and really nobody else. So that's a pretty major issue, in my opinion. I think that bringing Tyron Smith back could be a possibility. I mean, he is a franchise legend. I guess I don't know what the odds are of it happening. He has been so injury prone that maybe it's time to let him go and find another option, but they've got to do something on the line. And I would say that's, yeah. And number one on the priority list, even like above linebacker to me, is like, do not let that offensive line become a disaster. It's been such a strength, but it's kind of teetering almost on the edge of disaster, I feel like, because of how old their two superstars are. And then, like you said, linebacker, hire Zimmer. I know it's been rumored and has not happened yet. I want to see it. I would like to see Mike Zimmer hired. And then you get Bland and Diggs playing behind a Mike Zimmer pass rush will be crazy. And I think you hope that ages a little bit, like is just a better way to run defense than what Dan Quinn was doing, which I think it could be, because some pressures are all the rage right now, and Zimmer is one of the best blitz guys out there. So I think that if they do that, that'll be good. And then invest in the offensive line. And then there's really not much you can do outside of pay Dak, in my opinion. He's good enough to warrant it. I think that you can win a Super Bowl with Dak, even though he keeps sucking in the playoffs. But I still do think that you can somehow.
Not his fault.
And I think he's on a different level than Tua, so I'd pay him. So, yeah.
I have to agree. Do you think, what are your thoughts on, maybe them needing more depth at receiver too, or just...
Yeah, but it's not as pressing as some of the other needs because CD is such a planet and you can give him such a gigantic target rate. I would definitely they need a running back too because Pollard's a free agent. They need one quite badly unless they want 32-man fantasy league Rico Dowdle being running back one, but that'll be pretty easy. You could find one of those guys. Trey Benson, how about my white running back one? But I think that it'll probably look pretty. They brought back McCarthy. I think the defensive coordinator change and just trying to hit on another offensive lineman would be what I expect them to run back next year. No crazy trades, no new quarterback.
Right.
I don't think they're like a Stephon Diggs team either. So
that would be crazy, though, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It would be. It would be. I would be. I mean, maybe they could be, I guess, but probably not.
Probably not. But I think it's about high time we get to our Under Armour NBA Game Changer of the Week. Matt, let us know who is the truth, or you've been going with a lot of negative guys recently, so who is not the truth or the truth? I don't know.
I'm going to say Max Strus because he hit a 60-footer game winner, but I want to talk about the Cavs in general. I mean, I think the Cavs have inspired a little bit of confidence in me during this stretch that they might be more serious in the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to be able to go beat the Celtics in a 7-game series, but Okoro is starting to shoot better. Strus has been a good addition. Niang's had some good minutes. Mobley's been playing his top ball, and him and Allen have been great on defense. And Donovan Mitchell is as locked in as ever, right? If their rotations can be just a little bit better, which with the shooting jump that they have taken, undoubtedly, they should be able to. I could see a world where things are a little bit easier on Garland and Mitchell in a playoff series. They're not going up against a team like maybe the Knicks in the first round. Maybe they're going up against, I don't even know who it would be right now. The Pacers, that'd be pretty easy for them, at least offensively. Then I could see them getting out of the first round. And you get to the second round, anything can happen. I say they're like a conference final plausible team. And that's a lot different from what I thought about them going into this season.
It'll come down to Evan Mobley. He's gotten progressively a little bit more efficient with his offense each of the past 2 years, it seems like. And if he hits his stride during the playoffs, that's the key to everything with the Cavs, right? It's if Mobley's shot starts to fall, then everything will be great. And as long as there's strides in that and everybody else is taking strides as well. I think the Knicks are certainly flawed. Who's their best player? I think they could definitely get past the Knicks. I think I would pick them in a series against the Knicks if they played right now, which
the Cavs,
I guess, is the benchmark on if they, I would. So I guess that's the benchmark on if they could get farther because that's who they lost to last year. I think they would.
Yeah.
But what do I know? Strus would hit a 70-foot game winner.
Fair enough. I don't think I have the guts to
That's
say
okay.
that they'd beat the... I don't think I'd have the guts to say that they'd beat the Knicks. Yeah. I just think the spacing problems with Mobley and Allen are still going to rear their head a decent amount. And then it's going to rely on a lot of jump shooting from Garland and Mitchell. And that was a bad recipe last year. And I think this next team is even better, right? So I'd still lean them.
I'm looking at the standings now, and really everybody outside of everybody in the East is fucked because I see the Heat have risen to the 5th seed, which means we are getting a Celtics Heat Eastern Conference final, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't know.
So never mind. It's actually very over for the Cavs when they face the Heat in the playoffs.
I could see it, man.
Do I see the
never know what to
Bulls
think
in
of
the
it.
play-ins? I haven't looked at these Eastern Conference standings in a while.
It gets bleak down there, man. It gets. I mean, being in the play-ins in the
I don't
East
want to
doesn't
look at
mean
these
anything.
anymore.
But it gets bleak in the East, dude. I mean, the Hornets are the 13 seed and they have 15 wins, which is crazy. I mean, there's multiple single win teams, and it's going to be March when this episode comes out. Maybe they'll win games tonight. I don't know if they. No, they don't play.
So
So
they're the 13 seed and they have 15 wins.
yeah, it's not pretty. They have the worst plus minus in the
no,
NBA. I
it's
can't
not.
believe that, man. I can't believe that.
That would make
Anyway,
me sick.
Matt, I caught the Hornets game after you said it was unfair that they got a 9% chance to win on the live
That was
stream.
not great,
and they
bro.
had what? I tuned in
got
at
blown up by
halftime.
40,
How many points
whatever.
did they have? Like 25.
stop. 29.
Like 25 points at halftime.
Just ugly stuff, bro.
Let
Their
them
offense
cook.
is fucking horrible, dog. It's really terrible. And their defense wasn't much better either. I watched about a quarter and a half of that. And then it was like Grant Williams and drop. And then like Bobby Portis would pop out for a three. And they're like, you know, they'd be in drop. And then Dame would come around the screen and he'd shoot the three. It's like, dude, there's absolutely no way they're going out like this. And they went down by like 15 or 20. I'm like, all right, I got a life, bro. I'm not watching every minute of every Hornets game. I don't care if that makes me a bad fan. So I turned that off.
It does not.
It does make you a bad fan. Be a man. Watch your team suck.
I feel
Not
you.
for 82 games, man. In football, maybe you could pull off that
I can
argument,
watch
but
the Browns
not.
go 0-16.
That's a little different. It's
And
just
if I
not
can watch the
82
Browns
games.
go 1-15 and then 0-16 in back-to-back years, have the Hornets?
Well, the Hornets have lost way more The Hornets have lost way more games than that this year.
But have the Hornets had a stretch as bad as going 1-31 in two? In
Pretty much, dude.
In
They
any
went 7-59. They're pretty bad, bro.
oh man, that's not
Anyway.
great. That's not great.
No more Hornets talk. Let's shoot me.
Get out of here. Hornets podcast now, I fear. No, but thank you all so much for tuning in. Those are the AFC and NFC East blueprints for this upcoming, free agency and draft run. We'll do another division next week. We'll keep doing more draft stuff. We did our quarterback and our receiver top fives. We'll keep doing those. We'll keep doing our live film breakdowns of prospects as well. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flippity flop.